Hello, I'm Herm Gailey, here with an 11-month-old colt we call Buddy. We had him gelded back around the first of the year, so about 4 months ago. When we turned him out after that, he promptly got run through a fence, and if you were to look, you could probably see he's still got a pretty good blemish on his left hind. It's not structural, but it is gonna show, but no effect on his function or any actual structural damage. Took a while to get him over that. Bottom line was he was on stall rest for a prolonged period of time, except for hand walking. And what became apparent when we started hand walking him was when he had that downtime and no exercise, he developed an idea that he could dominate us and maybe then go have some fun. And he's had a little relapse because we got him over that pretty well. But right now he's saying, hey, let's go do something. So what I want to do is show you the problem, which he's had a little recurrence, but it'll give me something better to show you. This horse likes to lean in on you with his shoulder, and that's not at all unusual. Stop that. Now what I'll use with him, which I rarely use, is this training stick. This is one of Mr. Pirelli's, the famous carrot stick, which is actually, as these things go, I don't use these much, but for this particular maneuver or exercise, I do like to use something that lets me distance myself a little from the horse. Because what happened with him, he would slant his shoulder in and sort of come towards you with it. When you tried to move him away, he might rear up, he might do any number of things. Using this gave you enough distance that you were safer. So what I want to do is maybe show you what his natural tendency is. I'm going to almost encourage it. But you see how he wants to come in? And it's not so awful bad now. It was real bad when he was first on that layup. But you can see he just has a tendency to come towards you. Now, everyone is familiar with yielding the hindquarters. And that's all well and good. And, you know, it's not too hard to accomplish. But it's not his hindquarters that are the problem here. So that maneuver, that exercise is not going to help you a whole lot. What I need to do is to move his shoulder over. So I'm going to say, Buddy, step aside, step aside. And I'm going to tap that shoulder. And he's not going to like it. And he's going to search, and then he's going to make a sidestep. And then I'm just going to rub him with this. Now, there's going to be somebody out there who says, well, you're whacking this nice little horse with a stick. Well, here's how hard I'm whacking him. And I could do that to myself all day, and I don't think you could train me because it doesn't affect me much. But in his mind, that's a warning. That's something that he reacts to, and I want him to react to it. And it lets me stay this far away. If you're in this close, and this horse leans on you, moves in, or rears up, you're in an awkward position. So I'm going to just move him a little. See how he wants to come in, and I'm going to say, step on, step aside, step aside, step aside. There you go. And that's all you need at that point. Step aside. So go forward isn't necessarily the right answer. That's the right answer. Go backward isn't the right answer. Now I'm not going to restrain him overly, because that motion can convert into that side step. So step, step, step aside there, bud. Step aside. And you see his tail going, and you see how he wanted to lean on me? That's a little bit of that temper that I saw in him. So There you go. Not perfect, but he's getting the idea. So he needed a little refresher. And frankly, I brought him out here intending to show how well this worked. And it wasn't working real well. I thought, well, that's a gift in itself. We're just in the beginning of spring and there's a few bugs starting to make their appearance. Now come on, now step around. Step aside, step aside, step aside. You don't come in on me. Don't fly backwards. There's only one right answer. There you go. There you go. See, and I don't want him scared of this stick, and he's not, but he's aware that it can have influence over him. I see you slanting in. Step aside, step aside, step aside. There you go. Now, you could say, well, just drive his whole front end away, drive his head away, it'll work a whole lot better. Well, the problem is, I want his head facing me. If he takes his head away, he can go off that direction. I'm behind him. He can sell out, leave, kick me, do whatever he wants. But if he's looking at me, he can't do that. But he has to be looking at me and stepping aside, step aside, step aside. That's better. Step aside. Step aside. Keep going. There you go. It's interesting. I don't see any flies, but I had another horse out here and he was just as fussy as this guy is. So there must be something small that they're not liking. So step, step aside, step aside. There you go. So little increments get you a long way. He'd also love to lie down and roll in this sand, which maybe he'll get an opportunity to do after a bit. Step aside, tap, 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 there, there. That's more what I want. I want to be able to create that space without losing his head out there to the outside where he has a mechanical advantage on me. So we'll just move him a little bit. You give him a moment to soak. Don't come in. There. Move that shoulder out. Because it's just his natural instinct to lean in and bring that shoulder. And that's a way that a horse will dominate you. This is a nice colt, but he's very confident. And those confident ones sometimes say, well, listen, I could be in charge here if you gave me a chance. And I'm sure that's true. But I don't know that I'd like taking orders from him. So he just needs to get accustomed to step aside. He just needs to get accustomed to taking orders from me. Now this isn't real dramatic, but he will remember this more completely as we go. The first couple times I worked with him on this earlier on, it really got kind of ugly, to be honest with you. Now he's just struggling to remember and to make decisions. There you go. There you go. Now what I'm not doing is making all kinds of predatory body language gestures like people tell you to do. I just don't feel like I should need to crouch down like a tiger, and nobody that knows me would just, mistake me for any kind of meaningful tiger. So I just want to stand up like a human and say, move over, move over, move over, move over, move over. So in a short time, we've made quite a little bit of progress. Now we could get real greedy and try to get him going the whole way across the pen and try to have a little magic show here. Except I'm no miracle man, and I learned that long ago. So all I want to do is be able to reliably say to him, step aside, step aside, step aside, step aside, step aside. Now, step aside. There you go. Don't lean in on me. And then what you should be able to do is throw down that stick, which secretly I hate to use, and just say, step aside. And he stepped behind himself a little bit, but not bad. You're not going to be walking around your whole life with a stick. So don't feel like you want to use that stick all the time and get addicted to it. It's just a good deal maker sometimes. See, and that's what we're after, and that's enough for now. These guys, I don't think colts have the short attention span that people say they do, but they have a limited tolerance for stress. So you could piddle around with this off and on all day, but this was mildly stressful to him. He didn't want to do this. So maybe what we want to do is not continue putting any significant amount of stress on him. But we just want to make sure that we are able to use less and less external aids. One other thing I wanted to be sure to mention. I made a point of working this colt this morning in a nylon web halter, simply because there's gotten to be this mystique about rope halters. I like rope halters. I use them a lot. I think they have more feel. But if you don't have a rope halter, don't say, oh my gosh, I can't teach my horse to do groundwork. You can. And if you get a rope halter, don't say, oh, then my work is done, because it's not. If you just had a figure eight of rope around his head, you could do everything you need to do. I guess if you were really good, you could do it at liberty. But the point is, it's not all about equipment. And there's this sense that, well, if you're going to do groundwork, you need that rope halter. Rope halters are good, but they're not magic. So that's some thought there. Now let's see how he has done when he soaked a little bit. Is he going to be better or worse? Step across, there you go. So he got a little bit of amnesia, but not too bad. I'm gonna let him go on that. Test that out. Make sure your horse isn't really primed to come at you or strike at you, because sometimes you can trip their trigger when you start saying, you move your feet, I'm not moving mine, especially if your tendency before has been to fall back when they lean at you. Well, they've just trained you really well. When you start doing the training, don't be surprised if you get some pushback, but it's well worth working through it to create a safer, more responsive horse. Good luck with that, and we'll see you next time.